Hey everybody, how was your fight today? I'm quite sure you got in some fight somewhere along the line today. You walking your path, doing your daily routine. I'm hearing that it's official. Alex Jones InfoWars have been officially banned from a lot of corporate networks. I see a lot of people up in arms about that. And their argument is our First Amendment, freedom of speech. I hear a lot of people using that argument about freedom of speech. But if you've been following the videos that I've been making, you don't have freedom of speech anymore. Technically you don't, because you were conquered. Doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, and I don't use the word race because it's the Europeans who made that word race. I'm not in a race. I didn't sign up for a race. I don't remember my mother signing me up for any kind of race. I don't remember my father signing me up for any kind of race. So I'm not in a race. I don't belong to a race of people. I belong to a culture of people. Let's get that clear. So you want to refer to my culture? That's fine. If you start talking about my race, that's when I shut down. Because I know now that I'm not here to compete with anyone. If I'm going to do any competing now, it's going to be within. So all these people are up in arms talking about freedom of speech and constitutional rights, and like I told you before, the Constitution no longer exists. You let Bush sign the Constitution out of existence and replace it with the Patriot Act. The European conqueror knows, like I said, that it has to give you some leeway sometimes because they're outnumbered. So they're giving you the illusion that you have rights, hoping that when they don't give you the rights, that you start fighting. Now let me ask you this. What good is it doing that you're fighting? Okay, say for instance, people will use the argumentation that if it wasn't for the people who fought and died during any war, that the civilian population wouldn't have what they have now. My argument is this. It depends on what war you're referring to. Wars are staged. Wars are systematically started to get people fighting. Now there's a metaphysical reason behind war, and I'm not going to get into that. But wars are staged. Wars are systematically started for a purpose. It's not just because one side don't like the other side. When you get into warfare and you find out who and what and why these wars are started, you can narrow a lot of things down than just your speculation. Like for instance, the war in Iraq was started because some Muslims attacked America. But when you go and do the real research and you put the pieces of the puzzle together, you'll see that that war was systematically started with an agenda in mind. It had nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction. It had nothing to do with oil. It had nothing to do with getting Saddam Hussein. So now people are arguing because of what happened to Alex Jones and InfoWars, that where are we going with this? What's going to happen next? Who's the next person that's going to get shut down? Well, I should say network. Alex Jones had a network, or still have a network, but they got shut down and banned from a lot of corporations. Who's going to be next? Well, because the conqueror conquered, and when I say the conqueror conquered anything that's in opposition to it. The ones who started the war want people to fight. So now people are like, okay, who's next? Who do we have to protest against next? What do we got to fight against next? So you're constantly fighting. As a matter of fact, that which created you, whatever you believe in, created you in a way where in this dimension you have to fight. Inside your body there's a fight. And that's why you have an immune system. I pointed this out before. So instead of you looking into the why, where you created that way, you're out fighting against something outside of yourself. Now, if there's any fault to anything that's been going on the planet Earth, it's your fault. Simply because you keep participating in the fight. No one's making you fight. Kanye West said something and a lot of you people didn't get it. Especially the black American. You didn't get it. He said slavery is a choice. So automatically among black Americans, we just look at the slavery that happened in America to Africans. If you look at slavery throughout the existence of so-called the human being, if there's any enslaving going on, slavery is a choice. Because even though somebody walks up to you and try to make you submissive and conquer you, you have a right to resist. Now, fighting for that makes more sense than fighting for something that you're never going to change. The people that shut InfoWars down have an agenda, just like you have an agenda. So you're looking at them as if they're wrong, and they're looking at you like you're wrong. And so you go to them and you start arguing, and they start arguing. It's a ping pong argument. It's back and forth. Who's right, who's wrong? Who's right, who's wrong? The ball is going back and forth across the net. And in this situation, unlike ping pong, there's no points being kept and there's no winner. It's just like in the movie Doctor Strange. There's a loop cycle. In Christianity it says Satan will be chained up 1,000 years, and then after 1,000 years Satan will be let loose. And what do you think Satan's going to do? Go back and be Satan. Cause chaos again. And then in time, that which created us will go and conquer Satan. And then Satan will be chained up again. So you're in a loop cycle and you don't even know it. And I'm talking about not just unconscious, the sheeple. I'm talking about a lot of people who call themselves conscious and awake. Because you're out on the internet promoting that you should fight against this and you should fight against that. Like I said in one video, the Illuminati this and the Freemasons that and the satanic eye and Satan and devil worship. what I've noticed about people are talking about devil worship and Freemasonry, and those are mostly Christians. You don't see too many people making videos who are occultists, and I mean Satan worshipers or these entertainment industry people who are doing what the Christians may refer to as Satanism, talking about what the Christians are doing. It's a lot of Christians talking about aliens are evil, magicians are evil, and they're using the Bible as a reference book. So, what are you fighting for? You're doing the exact same thing as the person you're complaining about is doing. You're doing the exact same thing. You've become the thing you hate the most. And there's no solution. There's no end. Because you're teaching it to your children just like they're teaching it to their children. And then your children will get into the same argument and war. They'll be fighting. And then your grandchildren will get into the same war. And your great-great-grandchildren, your great-great-great-grandchildren, your great-great-great-great-grandchildren, your great-great... And it's on and on. A lot of you didn't listen when you didn't see or pay attention when you watched the movie The Matrix. There's only one way to get out of this war, and that's to unplug. Getting back to Kanye West, he said slavery is a choice. You don't have to be a slave. You don't have to be a slave. Well, Paul, what do you want? Them to kill us? Who said give me liberty or give me death? See, your body and your spirit are two different things. It's just that now you've given your body, your physical being, so much power that it has got its own consciousness now. And that's the reason why you're out there fighting. Because you don't want to give up these earthly pleasures. That's what it is. Let's be for real. You like how that food tastes. You're like, what was his name who betrayed? Who was the Judas in the movie The Matrix? Cypher? I think it was Cypher. You know the steak's not real, but you love the taste of it. You love sweets. You love hiking. You love fishing. You love killing, hunting. You love whatever you love. You like girls. You like boys. You like your same sex. You like... It's so much stuff that your physical body can get attached to that it starts to like. And then it becomes hard for you to let it go. And that's why you're fighting. And I don't exclude myself. But I have a lot more physical desires than a lot of you. Yes, I've been through what a lot of you've going through. And that's why I'm making these types of videos. You're fighting for nothing. In general terms. There is no word nothing. But to keep it in general terms, what are you fighting for? So that you can have the right to do what you feel that's right? If you're thinking like that, you're going to always run into opposition in this dimension. Always. Is that what you're really here for? To fight? And Christians, you should be ashamed of yourself. You preach peace, but I see you fighting. Muslims preach peace. Islam means peace. But I see you fighting. You're no better than what you're fighting against. You're no better. And so you don't blame the opposition. You blame yourself. So what do you suppose we do? Just let them take over? They're gonna take over. Yes, they're gonna take over. Because you didn't write this story. I was telling somebody yesterday, what do humans make? What do we make? We don't make nothing. Again, speaking in general terms, we know the word nothing doesn't exist, but speaking in general, we don't make anything. All we do is produce. Do we make cakes or do we produce cakes? Do we make babies? Humans don't make babies. Where's a human that made? That's what got us in trouble the first time, the African. We wanted to play God or the Creator. We wanted to play the Creator. So we took elements and we mixed them together, and look what happened. Now the European wants to do the same thing, to leave its mark on the world. All this cloning. Cloning is not new. I tried to tell people over 20 years ago there's different types of cloning, where the media was focusing on identical cloning. Cloning is when you take one thing and you make something from that one thing, you make another thing. That's another type of cloning. It doesn't have to be identical. So you're a clone. You weren't the first woman, the first man, the first gay man, the first lesbian, the first transgender. You're not that. So stop being so egotistical. But this ego has been spread around so much that we say stuff like, my idea. It's not your idea. You don't make ideas. I discovered. I discovered this. I discovered that. You don't discover anything. You comprehend stuff that you come across, some of us. Well, I'll go out and say, out on the limb and say, all of us comprehend something. At one point in our lives, we comprehend different things at different times. So they're gonna push forward with their agenda. Don't you know that democracy becomes communist, and communism becomes democracy? In time, America is changing into a communist state. It has to go through the police state or the military state before it can get to that communist state. Pure communism is when people voluntarily support their government, not forcefully. So, what's the difference between Islam, Christianity, sadism, communism? Just the method of belief. They all have the same purpose, to change everybody into what they think is right. Isn't that what you're doing? People who are making these videos, you're trying to change people's thinking. Look at me, look what I'm doing. I'm not trying to change you into what I think is right. I'm trying to point out to you that you're fighting and it's not going to get you anywhere. Buddha saw his way out when they offered him that nasty food, and he ate it. And I think I said this in one of my videos. He ate it knowing it was nasty, and that's what killed him. So until you unplug or retreat, look how many of you could have been retreated, like I said, bought some land and start to build your own version of your own paradise. Now, of course, the opposition is going to come. Something is going to come. But by then, you could have left this dimension. Why do you think monks, the good ones, the ones who are really seeking truth, will go away from society, sit in the temple, meditate, do deep meditation, where they can, what we call astral plane, leave their body and go to a place where they choose to go? Which I'm quite sure to be much better than this. Some of them may even acquire the power to actually build their own dimension and leave this shell behind. Look at the movie John Carter. John Carter discovered in that movie. And where did they get the concept to make this movie? Because it's true. John Carter found a way to preserve his body. That's why he passed his property and his wealth on to, I think it was his nephew, if I'm not mistaken. His nephew was tasked to protect his body in the tomb while he went back to the world that he was on, where he teleported to this particular place, where he could jump real high, and he helped the people there fight. That's just how that story is. It's constant fighting in European stories. There's constant fighting because we come from a being that's at war. You remember there was a war in heaven. You look at Egyptology, they're fighting. Sumeria, they're fighting. And what's up with all of this talk about aliens? All these people talking about aliens, aliens, aliens. Aliens are flying around. You want me to start cussing? I cuss like a sailor, but I've been holding myself back. Anybody in my family know or know me know I cuss. But making these videos, I don't cuss too much. What do you think you are? If God had to create the earth, and I learned this through Dr. Malachi Z. York, the man who was framed for molesting some girl he didn't molest, because he's very knowledgeable, and he was opening the eyes of people way back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. When I got a hold of his books coming out of Germany, out of the military, it blew my mind. He said he wrote in one of his scrolls, and I forget the title of his scrolls, if God created the earth, that means the earth didn't always exist. So by definition, and he gave the example of extraterrestrial, broke the compound word down, but by definition, alien means anything that don't come from earth. So what does that make you? Your body was made from the soil or the clay of the earth, but your spirit wasn't. Now, what keeps what going? Does your body keep your spirit going, or your spirit keeps your body going? If your spirit walks away from your body, what happens to your body? It'll just drop. If the body walks away from the spirit will just continue to exist. There's no such thing as death. Even on this earthly plane, there's no such thing as death. People see ghosts all the time. We call them ghosts, but these are actually spirits. Ghost is just a word. I mean, spirit is just a word too, but it's more closer to what you are, a spirit. Your energy is spiritual. So these people making these UFO videos is like somebody discovering a porcupine for the first time. A child discovering a porcupine, or a child discovering a fox, or a child discovering a lion for the first time. Oh, mommy, look at that, a lion. So we see flying saucers flying back across the sky, and we like, oh, look at that, oh my God. When I could just look at my neighbor and they look different from me, I'd be like, I wonder what planet they're from. Or hear some of you the way you talk, and I'm like, what planet are you from? That's even an expression now. When somebody starts to talk crazy, we'd be like, what planet you from? See how they got you all brainwashed and under hypnosis? They got you fighting so much that you think is, I mean, we even glorify fighting now. We glorify it. We cheer it on just like the Romans and the Greeks used to do back in the old Colosseum days. We call it MMA, mixed martial arts, UFC, wrestling. We like to see people beat each other's heads in. And in MMA, UFC, there's no honor in that. because one warrior could have knocked the other warrior out. They still run over and keep beating them and beating them and that's how tight they got us wound. A car will pull out in front of you or don't go fast enough when the light turn green. Some people jump out, grab the guy out of the car, beat him down, grab the woman, beat her up, pull up next to her, shoot at the car because the car just got in front of you. All kinds of craziness is happening now. They got you so wound up. Look at you. Just go online and look at your behavior. And don't think you're exempt from any of it. No, not one of you. What's that saying Jesus had? Whosoever is without sin, let them cast the first stone. Or if you live in a glass house, don't throw no stones. You guys are such hypocrites, it's unbelievable. It's unfreaking believable, man. Look at you. The next time you get in the mirror to brush your teeth or wash your face, just remember I said this, and I'll say it to your face. If I meet you on the street, I'll say it in your face. You gotta try to come up to me with argument and say, what were you talking about on the internet? I'll tell you, yeah, you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. It's your fault why all of this is happening, because you keep participating in it. And you're not waking up. You claim to be woke, but you're not woke. I give my love out to the people who are pointing out things to make people realize that what they're doing is senseless. The only way out of this dimension is to unplug. As long as you fight these corporations, they're going to fight you back. And that's just what the people who started the fight want. That's how they make money. And those of you who are conscious, you know what family I'm talking about. I looked their worth up right now. I looked their worth up maybe 5 years ago. It was 100 trillion. Now it's up to 500 trillion. They don't even have to lift a finger, and they got the masses of people getting ready to cut each other's throat. If they had a purge in America today, the 8th of August 2018, the purge starts tonight at 12 o'clock midnight. On the 9th, 3/4 of the population of America be wiped out. You think about that while you're fighting. Think about it. 3/4 of the population of America would be gone. That's how they've got us. That one family or two, a handful of people, got millions of people, or I should say globally billions of people, ready to blow each other's brains out. You're a sad bunch. Sad bunch. If the shoe fits, be man or woman enough to wear it. I'm a soldier, so like I said, 2 of my other brothers are soldiers. I see stuff clearly. Any soldiers out there listening to this, you guys see it. I'm quite sure you see it. I hope you see it. You're seeing civilians, they look pitiful because they don't know what's going on. They don't know they've been put in a position where you're doing just what they planned for you to do. Kill each other. And when the dust settles, the people who started this will come out the woodworks, dig big holes, bury you in them, and build skyscrapers right over your dead corpses. Yes, that's what they're going to do. So you just think about this.